Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's just jump right in because today we're unpacking something super personal. A hidden dynamic that honestly plays out in almost everyone's life at some point. We're talking about the architecture of anxiety and emotional autonomy. And, well, we're going to tackle a really uncomfortable question right out of the gate. What if your overwhelming compulsion to help someone is actually hurting the exact people you love the most? You know, you probably think you're being totally selfless by managing everyone else's crises. But as we're about to see, the whole thing is way more complicated than it looks.
I want you to really think about this for a second. There's probably someone in your life right now who is struggling, and you just know it, right? Because you can physically feel it. It's not just an idea in your head, it's this actual literal pressure. It's like this heavy weight that just parks itself right in your chest, and there's no way it lifts until you know they're okay. You're carrying their burden. And man, it leaves you with this profound exhaustion, the kind of deep, bone-tired exhaustion that an extra hour of sleep absolutely does not fix. It's just draining you.
So look at the stark contrast here between the story we tell ourselves and the actual reality we're living. On the one hand, we have what you'd call love, right? You tell yourself, hey, this is just what love looks like. Showing up, being the rock, carrying what they can. It sounds like a beautiful, selfless story. But let's flip it and look at what you probably won't admit. You are exhausted. You've been so incredibly busy managing everybody else's life, constantly putting out their fires, that you might not even have noticed your own life is kind of disappearing into the background.
Now, this whole phenomenon actually has a name. The psychiatrist Murray Bowen, who spent decades studying the real gritty mechanics of family dynamics, called this emotional fusion. Basically, it's a state where boundaries just totally blur. You literally lose the ability to tell where your emotions end and someone else's begin, or which responsibilities are yours versus theirs. In this fused state, their pain instantly becomes your 911 emergency. Their inability to function, well, that just becomes the exact reason you feel you have to function twice as hard. And the real trap here is that you mistakenly identify this pure panic and enmeshment as love.
Okay, I want to slow down for just a second here because we need to apply what Bowen called the brutality of precision. We really have to slice right through that whole illusion of selfless care. And look, I know this is incredibly hard to hear, but we've got to look at how this constant, unwavering help, that gut instinct to just rush in and save the day, is actually the exact thing holding your loved one back from growing.
To really wrap our heads around this, we need to talk about overfunctioning and underfunctioning reciprocity. When you chronically take on responsibility for someone else's emotions, or you're always shielding them from the natural fallout of their own choices, that person doesn't grow stronger. They actually shrink. Just think about the underlying logic of this system. Why on earth would someone ever develop the muscles to carry their own heavy weight if you're literally always there, ready to pick it up first? By rushing in to save them, you're actively participating in a dynamic that requires them to stay incapable. Because honestly, their incapability is what justifies your role as the savior. You aren't protecting them from difficulty, you're protecting them from becoming someone who can actually handle difficulty.
And that brings us to a really crucial, kind of bitter pill to swallow. Bowen noted that overfunctioning is often just anxiety management disguised as care. I mean, let that sink in for a minute. You aren't actually doing this for them. You're rushing in because watching them distress triggers something in your own nervous system that you just don't know how to tolerate. Seeing them struggle makes you impossibly anxious. So rescuing them, fixing their problems, stepping in, well, that's actually how you regulate your own nervous system.
Which leads us to this fascinating, if slightly technical-sounding concept, the undifferentiated family ego mass. This perfectly explains the mechanics of what's happening under the hood. In these types of dynamics, emotional boundaries are so deeply blurred that everyone's nervous system is essentially running on the exact same anxious circuit. If one person sparks, boom, the whole circuit lights up. You aren't operating as an individual anymore, you're acting like a reactive node in this giant, shared emotional grid.
So let's see how this blows up into broader family or social drama through a process called triangulation. When the tension between two people in that shared circuit just gets too hot to handle, the system does something entirely automatic. It pulls in a third point to blow off the pressure. Have you ever randomly found yourself stuck right in the middle of a parent's marriage problems or maybe a friend's dramatic fallout? You might feel like, oh, I'm chosen, I'm trusted because they came to you. But the reality? It's a lot less flattering. You're actually just being used.
The trap usually snaps shut in 3 super predictable steps. First, the tension between those two people just hits an unbearable peak. Second, you get yanked in as that third point. And third, and this is the worst part, you end up acting as an emotional landfill. They dump all their unmanageable anxiety right onto you, just to freeze a conflict that wasn't even yours to resolve in the first place. The tension instantly drops for them, sure, but now guess who's carrying all that heavy toxic weight? Yep, you.
So, the million-dollar question, how do we actually break this cycle? The answer is what Bowen called the differentiation of self. Now, it's absolutely vital to understand what this means. This is not about being cold or detached or abandoning the people you love. Not at all. It's defined as remaining in close emotional contact while maintaining your own internal stability. It means having the incredible, profound strength to watch someone you deeply care about struggle and deliberately choosing not to move. It's about managing your own anxiety about their struggle instead of managing their life to soothe yourself.
In practice, it sounds like this one, incredibly powerful sentence. I believe you can handle this. This is yours to figure out. That's it. That is how you hand the responsibility right back to your loved one. It's calm, it's crystal clear, and honestly, it's incredibly empowering. It communicates total faith in their capability rather than just confirming their fragility.
But listen, you've got to be prepared. Because the second you set this new boundary, the system is going to aggressively fight back with something called change back pressure. When you stop being the ultimate fixer, people are going to tell you that you've changed. They'll accuse you of being selfish. They might even claim you just don't care about them anymore. This guilt trip, it's 100% predictable. It is quite literally just the system desperately trying to yank you back into the exact role that kept it stable. But you have to remember, that old peace they want back, it was never real. It was just the temporary absence of conflict, and it was purchased entirely at the cost of your own disappearance.
We really have to fundamentally redefine what care actually means. Real love requires two people who are fully capable of standing alone, not two people just using each other to avoid the terrifying anxiety of being themselves. When you differentiate, when you finally take a breath and step out of the way, you are giving the other person the ultimate gift. You're allowing them to develop the capacities they always had, but never actually needed to use, because you are always standing right there in the way.
So if this whole pattern of carrying the weight feels like looking into a mirror today, I want you to just sit with that recognition for a second. Think about it. What is one word that describes what you recognize today? Just one word. The simple act of naming it is the very first step toward reclaiming a life that actually belongs to you. Because, the dawn doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives. And the real work of becoming a whole person, well, that's just beginning.